The world is a global village. Each region may have its own particular and distinct customs, but they are part of a greater system of society that is worldwide. This system of society is capitalism, and every region and nation operates within it in one way or another. Socialism is not a cooperative island in the middle of capitalism, but a global system of society that will replace capitalism. Socialists see a division of society based upon the means of acquiring wealth. If you must work for a living, then you are working class. If your main income is derived from the work of others, then you are a capitalist. This distinction clearly exists. It is vital that the capitalists pay their workers less than the value that their labour produces. It is this difference between the value of what workers are paid and the value of what they produce that is the source of profit. No matter how nice capitalists may be on a personal level, as a class, their economic interest will always be in opposition to that of the working class. It is not a matter of good and evil or anything like that. It is inherent in any class system. As long as the ownership of the means of production and distribution rests with the minority capitalist class, this antagonism will continue to exist. The antagonism is caused by the necessarily differing interests of the classes. Therefore, the only way to eliminate this antagonism is to eliminate the class system and establish a system of common ownership where the previous antagonism has no basis. Common ownership means that society as a whole owns the means and instruments for distributing wealth. This includes the forests, mines and oceans from which natural wealth is extracted, the factories in which this natural wealth is processed, and the distribution of that wealth via transportation networks and distribution centres. It does not include your personal belongings, such as your toothbrush or clothing or the family heirloom. It also implies the democratic control of the means and instruments for producing and distributing wealth. For if everyone owns, then everyone must have equal right to control the means and instruments for producing and distributing wealth. Common ownership is not state ownership. State ownership is merely the ownership by the capitalist class as a whole instead of by individual capitalists, where the government then runs the state enterprises to serve the capitalist class. In the self-proclaimed communist states, the state enterprises serve those who control the party state apparatus. The working class does not own or control. It produces for a privileged minority. Socialism will be the result of workers democratically choosing a new classless society based upon the satisfaction of human needs. And since capitalism is a global system of society, it must be replaced globally. It would be foolish to expect the capitalist class to voluntarily give up its privileged position in society. Governments exist solely to administer the society as it exists, in the interest of the ruling capitalist class. So governments will not end the privilege. Capitalism will continue as long as the working class accepts it. The working class will have to force the capitalist class to give up its position of privilege. It is dangerous and futile to follow those who support violence by workers against the armed force of the state. Violent revolution has sometimes meant different faces in the capitalist class, always meant dead workers, and never meant the liberation of the working class. Unless workers organise consciously and politically and take control over the state machinery, including its armed forces, the state will be ensured a bloody victory. Political democracy is the greatest tool, next to its labour power, that the working class has at its disposal. When the majority of workers accept socialism, so-called revolutionary war will not be required. The real revolution is for workers to stop following leaders, to start understanding why society functions as it does, and to start thinking for themselves. Political parties of the left, right and centre claim to be working for the betterment of society. History shows us that no matter what these parties say, when elected, they administer capitalism in the only way it can be administered, in the interests of the capitalist class. There is no way that capitalism can meet the needs of the majority, but all of these parties pretend it can if only they find the right plan. None of them have any really new ideas, only rehashed reforms that have failed in the past. Voting for any of these parties is voting for capitalism forever. Socialists are therefore hostile, not in the sense of committing violent acts against other parties or their members, but hostile to the ideas of those parties which support capitalism. The only way to achieve socialism is for the working class to recognise this and consciously and politically work to replace capitalism with socialism. Among all the political parties in Great Britain, only the Socialist Party is dedicated to socialism as an immediate goal. It is this objective that makes the Socialist Party revolutionary. Our dedication to peaceful, democratic and immediate change. The Socialist Party is therefore engaged in a war of ideas against all other parties. Those other parties, no matter what they claim, are supporting the capitalist system and opposing the immediate establishment of socialism. Only the conscious support of the working class will create socialism, and to this end the Socialist Party seeks to increase understanding of and mobilise support for socialism. The Socialist Party calls upon every worker to support these efforts in any way that they can.